Chapter 2 Middle School. Despite the bitterness that permeated my home life, there was one area where I and everyone around me found reason for pride: my education. I was a passionate person by nature, and as I entered school, I dedicated myself to learning. Learning new things brought me endless joy. I read almost any book I could get my hands on. I devoured every book I could find. At the time, my house held only two sets of books: a biography of two legendary figures from ancient Korean history and a multi volume set on the history of the Three Kingdoms. Both were too difficult for a child who hasn't even entered school, yet I read them over and over again. After I entered school, I read all the textbooks and all the reference guide as well. Soon, reading encyclopedias and dictionaries became my favorite hobby. As a result, I excelled academically, and that success became my primary source of self worth. It wasn't just my own pride. My neighbors constantly complimented my dedication, and even my father took immense pride in having a daughter who was an academic standout. This drive peaked during my middle school years. From my first day until graduation, I never relinquished the top rank in my entire school. In nearly every exam, I was number one. Academic success became my armor. The children who once mocked me kept their distance. Teachers heralded me as a star pupil, and peers sought out my friendship. It was a shield that protected me from the humiliation and pity that usually followed my disability. Yet, ironically, it also served as a constant reminder of my limits. The higher I climbed, the more I heard people sigh, "What a pity! If only she didn't have the disability." To drown out that pity, and perhaps to escape my own reality, I pushed myself even harder. Starting at age 10, I began taking caffeine pills to ward off drowsiness so I could study late into the night. I was driven, even ambitious. I also made sure to stay current on everything my peers talked about: TV dramas, pop music, movies, radio hits. I watched every show and learned every popular song. I loved the arts, but my obsession with them was also strategic. I didn't want to be left out of any conversation. Between the studying and the pop culture, there weren't enough hours in the day. Hence, the pills. I simply refused to sleep. The funniest part of those years was that I actually pretended to be the brightest, happiest girl from the perfect family. I never breathed a word about my father's violence and my mother's hatred towards me. Instead, I always talked about good things about my parents, such as things they bought for me, though there was little, and places they took us during summer holidays, which was always a rainy day because they always opened the shop and worked as long as the day was clear and customers could walk in. My father spent time with me and my siblings only on rainy summer days because there were few customers when it rained. Even then, my mother didn't go with us. She instead stayed behind and still opened the shop. I never saw her taking any holiday in her entire life, in fact. Looking back now, I was perhaps making up the images of parents I wanted, wishing it to be true, and even believing it to be true, because the truth was too heavy to carry. As a result of all my effort, I soon became popular and remained so throughout middle school. I used to be dragged to host games for every class in my grade, from class 1 to 10, during the field trip. Teachers loved me even more as a smart student of theirs. I can confidently say I truly enjoy the popularity. Yet, at the same time, it was the time I began to think about the true meaning of life, my life above all, the life of a person with a disability in this society. Even though I enjoyed all the popularity and drove myself hard to continue to have everything I had, deep down in my heart, I knew that none of it could give me the true meaning of life. There was always pain and emptiness and anger in my heart, despite all of my achievements in studies and popularity. I still had to sit in a lonely classroom during outdoor activities, watching my classmates play on the field below. And while most kids were kind, there were still those who'd heard the world cripple the moment we had a disagreement. I was a formidable debater, and when they couldn't win with logic, they turned to my leg to hurt me. It worked every time. I used to fight with those kids when I was younger, even physically, but soon I saw there was no point. Nothing had changed in my family either. My father's violence and cheating were repeated again and again, and my mother's bitterness and indifference towards me hadn't changed a bit, if not worsened. All my siblings were younger than me and had their own issues. I was, in fact, the one who had to take care of them on behalf of my busy or impossible parents. I had no one to confide in. I couldn't expect guidance from my family, and I refused to shatter my perfect image by telling my friends or teachers the truth. There was not a single person who looked to be credible or capable enough to solve or give an answer to the issues of my life. Frankly speaking, I was quite arrogant back then. No one looked wise enough to answer my questions when even I myself could not answer them. So I looked to the greatest minds, books, philosophy books, most of them all, believing that the wisest man in history surely held the key. The fact that I too was kind of a philosophical person contributed as well. I read all the philosophy books I could get my hands on from then on. My friends called me weird, yet they gave me all the philosophy books they had in their houses. I read each and every one of them. The most surprising part for you here would probably be that I, in fact, went to church as well during this time. The first time I went to church was when I was 10, but only occasionally at the time. During my middle school days, however, I, in fact, attended church every week because I had to. One of the few benefits that were given to me by the government because of my disability was that I could choose a middle school and high school that I wanted to go to, unlike other kids. In Korea, you cannot choose a middle school or a high school, whether it's a public school or a private one. You will be allocated according to your home address. There are some exceptions since there are some special high schools, but these are for the kids either who extremely excel in their studies or who have special needs. They are also quite expensive in their tuition fees. I chose Isabel Junior High School for girls because it was close to my place and the public transportation was good. The school was named after the founder of the school, Isabel Davis, who donated a large sum of money to found the school and orphanage. It was told that Isabel Davis was one of those people from America who came to help Korea and share the gospel with Korea. Since the school was founded thanks to her, the school was a missionary school from its beginning. I, of course, had no idea of it when I chose the school. Looking back now, God was already guiding me even from this season of my life. One of the school's strict requirements was that students attend Sunday service, and bring the church newsletter every Monday as proof. I hated it. Frankly speaking, thinking they were forcing a religion which was full of lies. But I had no choice. Hence, I complied. It never occurred to me that the answers I sought were in the building I so resented entering. I still remember the first time I went to the church. My friend invited me to Sunday school, and by a miracle, my tyrant father allowed me to go. There was no religion in my family at the time, and my father wanted to keep it that way because he thought religions only brought division and conflicts in a family. Yet he made an exception because he thought having a faith might help me navigate a world that would be cruel to a disabled woman. He was right, though not in the way he thought. So I went to the church for the first time when I was 10. The Sunday school leader, who was an elder, gave a message, and during the entire message, I was shocked at how much nonsense the message was. It didn't make any sense in the light of the knowledge I knew at the time. I wondered why on earth these people were trying to deceive all these young kids, including me, with these ridiculous, unrealistic stories. At the same time, I vowed to myself I would never be fooled by such fantasy like messages. That was my first image of the church, and that was the image I still had during my middle school years. Since this was the image I had of the church, there was no way I would try to find any answer for life in there. Despite the fact I could not find the answer I wanted in all those philosophy books, the middle school years were still better than my earlier days. I took pride in my studies and my popularity. The pain in my life was still there, and I still didn't get the answer for the meaning of life, but I was confident I would soon find one if I kept reading and searching. I didn't know how wrong I was. I had no idea that everything I took pride in was about to crumble in the face of a reality I couldn't study my way out of.